Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Finest Disaster. This is Battlefield 1. In today's weapon review, we're going to be taking a closer look at the Martini-Henry Infantry Scout Exclusive Sniper Rifle, of course, in Battlefield 1. We're going to be taking a closer look at its stats and, of course, its attributes, and most importantly, how to best utilize this weapon and how to get the most out of its very unique sweet spot damage model. Starting then, as we usually do, with the stats of the weapon in question, the Martini-Henry Infantry has some interesting numbers. That's no secret to anybody. And starting off then with the damage model, we have a starting damage of 90. It then goes up to 100 damage. That means a one-shot potential kill, at least between the distances of 30 up until 80 meters, from which on then it goes down all the way down to 70 damage, this point being reached at 140 meters. The fire rate is notoriously bad with the Martini-Henry, the worst, of course, amongst all bolt action rifles in the game at 23 rounds per minute. You're not going to be firing down too many targets too quickly. Anybody who's ever used a Martini-Henry knows it's a very deliberate weapon. You need to take your shots carefully and make sure you don't waste them on useless targets. Moving on then to the muzzle velocity, this is once more one of the very bad attributes of this weapon. At 440 meters per second, you aren't going to be necessarily having an easy time shooting a long-range moving targets, especially considering that you only have the options of iron sights on this weapon. You're going to have to significantly lead on any target that is further away from you. However, as always, this is not necessarily the biggest of hindrance. It is an influential factor. However, with a little bit of practice, you'll learn to lead the Martini-Henry just enough to even shoot those long-range moving targets if the iron sights allow for the necessary accuracy. Moving on next then to magazine size, this is notoriously at 1. There is no magazine, it's single shot loaded. You fire one bullet, you have to reload to fire the next, and that reload time is going to take you quite a bit of time. At 2.3 seconds, don't expect to be firing down squad after squad of enemies in quick succession, because frankly, you simply don't have the magazine and reload time to do so. As we will cover later when we talk about playstyle, the Martini-Henry is a very special kind of sniper rifle that requires special kind of treatment. Now, the Martini-Henry, as I've previously said, is a weapon that requires special considerations when using or trying to use effectively. This is simply because it is very effective in very limited situations, has a number of weaknesses, but you are rewarded with what I at least find personally to be probably the most satisfying sniper rifle to use in Battlefield 1. This simply comes down to the experience, the one shot that you do have at taking out your enemies, the sound, the feel of the weapon. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I find myself enjoying sniping with the Martini-Henry probably more than I would sniping with most other weapons. That's not to say it's necessarily extremely good, but it's extremely entertaining to use. Now, regarding making the most of this weapon, it's obvious it's an iron sight based close quarter sweet spot modeled weapon, meaning you're going to want to use this in relative, for sniper terms, close proximity. 30 to 80 meters is not your average distance for sniping, at least not those 30 to 50, where I at least find myself making most of my Martini-Henry kills that truly make use of the necessary damage model, the sweet spot damage model that this weapon has. The problem you have to pay attention to, and this applies to all sniper rifles, however, is most important to the Martini-Henry, is that when shooting your targets through the arm into the torso, for example, if they're running perpendicular to you, you're not actually going to get your 100 damage, even if you're shooting that target between the ranges of 30 to 80 meters. Why? Because the damage multiplicator of your arm is applied to it, meaning in effect, you're not doing full damage. So when do you best use this weapon to somewhat avoid this, and also to the benefit of sniper rifles more generally? Probably an operation map clustered around a number of infantry focus points. Now, I'm not talking about true close quarter for example, an assault player, but more medium range for most classes, and relative close quarter at least for the scout class. Now, my favorite regarding the Martini-Henry use, or at least the most effective in my experience, would be the combination of Ballroom Blitz and Argonne Forest. I find these maps to be highly entertaining to use, especially on the attacking team, the Martini-Henry, and find myself to be actually quite effective in taking down my enemies when doing so, and you'll be seeing a number of clips from those specific maps today. So what does a Martini-Henry truly excel at? Obviously, for sniper terms, close quarter combat. How do you use it most effectively? In a non-aggressive way, and this may sound a little bit contradictory to what the weapon stats and what I've been saying up to now, but the Martini-Henry is probably the weapon that you have to play most deliberately, most carefully when compared to any other sniper rifle out there. It is not flexible, and it certainly is not forgiving. That's because if you miss your shot, you've missed your shot. You're down to your secondary, or you're not going to shoot anything at all, because frankly, there's no way you're rechambering that shot on a one-on-one to hit them again, unless your enemy truly is an absolute monkey when it comes to playing Battlefield. So you have to play this gun much like you would try to move up on an objective in Battlefield 4 under heavy enemy fire. Move between cover, use cover, be passive. You're certainly not going to want to be the first person to enter a new objective or to try and conquer an area from the enemy. You want to be the second or third guy, the person staying back and able to pick off enemies that don't necessarily know where you are. It's those juicy stationary targets that really make for the easiest kills. This applies to all sniper rifles. However, it's most important to take into account when using the Martini-Henry, because you do have that hindrance of A, using an iron sight, B, having a very slow fire rate, and C, a very poor muzzle velocity. So if you play the Martini-Henry in this very deliberate fashion, in this very slow but cover-centric way, I find it to be extremely effective. Would I argue it's more effective than your average sniper rifle out there, the SMLE Marksman, or even the Russian 1895? No, probably not, but it is definitely the most fun to use of those weapons, at least in my personal experience. With that being said, feel free to leave your opinions, your experiences, tips, and tricks regarding the Martini-Henry down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys what you think about this weapon. Have you been enjoying it just as much as I have, despite it not being the best sniper rifle in Battlefield 1? Feel free to also leave your future video suggestions regarding Battlefield 1 matters down below in the comments as always. But with all that being said, I'd like to thank you very much for watching and hope to see you in the next Battlefield 1 video.